Is this really, 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 really going to be your last Star Wars appearance?
I sure hope so.
Why?
Well, because, I mean, I had closure in the last one. I mean, the fact that I'm involved in any capacity is only because of that peculiar aspect of the Star Wars mythology where if you're a Jedi, you get to come back and make a curtain call as a Force ghost.
Is this really, really, really?
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That was Mark Hamill on the red carpet of Child's Play a few days ago, and I meant to do a video about this 2 or 3 days ago, but didn't have time, unfortunately, until today. So that's it. That's what Mark Hamill has got to say about Star Wars. He is done with it. He's finished. Basically, he's out. He's had enough of it. And I think you can tell that he's a very, very unhappy actor. I mean, to be talking about it being peculiar that his character gets to get a curtain call in the Rise of Skywalker, I think it just sums up that he's totally sort of emotionally disconnected from this franchise now. When you think that Mark Hamill, other than George Lucas, Mark Hamill really was Star Wars. Mark Hamill is Star Wars, other than George Lucas himself. I mean, that's just a very, very sad state of affairs. But he's been driven to this point by the way that Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson have developed the sequel trilogy. When he signed up for this, George Lucas was still the owner of Star Wars, and he thought that George Lucas would be sort of overseeing, not directing, but definitely overseeing the sequel trilogy, and that was the basis on which he signed up for, along with Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher. I assume that when he signed up with George, he was given an assurance from George that the first film would reunite the original characters. We know from George's story outlines that in episode 7, under George's story outline, Han, Luke, and Leia were to get one final adventure. They were reunited on screen, although it started off with Luke on the island and he's discovered by not Rey but Kira, and he has gone there to isolate himself. But in George Lucas's story outline for episode 7, he kind of gets drawn back into the adventure through the film, and in the second half of the film of episode 7, and what would have been George Lucas's story, he is reunited with Han and Leia, and they go on a final adventure. I assume it ends up with Han being killed, but nevertheless, they get that screen time, and that's the basis on which Mark Hamill was signing up for the sequel trilogy, thinking that he would get reunited with Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher on screen, thinking that George Lucas, if not the director of these films, would be the overseer, and they would work off George Lucas's story. Instead, what happened, as we know, there was never a reunion between Han, Luke, and Leia. We did get a brief reunion between Luke and Leia at the end of The Last Jedi, but he wanted a proper adventure for those final, for the three characters for one final time. We didn't get that. George Lucas, after selling the franchise, was kind of forced out by Kathleen Kennedy and her henchmen and women. They discarded his story drafts, which basically, once they did that, it made the position of George Lucas untenable, so he stepped away from it all. And so we know that Luke just appears in one final sort of 20-second moment at the end of The Force Awakens. And then in The Last Jedi, where we know what happened there, total character assassination. He fought. He was playing a completely different character named Jake Skywalker, but had no resemblance to Luke Skywalker. He knew just a hammer blow after hammer blow after hammer blow against the character that he played. And what he is revealing here, which is very interesting, I think, when he's done this, is that he's talking about a curtain call for Luke in The Rise of Skywalker, which implies he just has a very, very brief a limited role in the film. So they've kind of like teased Lucasfilm Limited. And I thought this was what was going on. Lucasfilm Limited with the teaser trailer and also with the title, they've kind of like teased the fans that Luke is back in a big way. I mean, the Rise of Skywalker, they've killed him off at the end of The Last Jedi, but to name episode episode 9, to name that the Rise of Skywalker, is it me, or does that hint at a resurrection for Luke? That hints to me that Luke is rising, that he's resurrected, and, you know, that he's coming back. Now, I always thought that was going to be very unlikely. I thought the most likely scenario was that he's just going to be playing a Force ghost, and Mark has confirmed that Luke is indeed back as a Force ghost. So there's no resurrection, there's no sort of Gandalf-type return from the Netherworld. There's nothing like that going on with the Rise of Skywalker, even though they possibly have teased that a little bit with the teaser trailer and also with got to keep the train of thought going. Been a really long day, so they possibly teased that with the teaser trailer and also with the title. Mark has confirmed that's not what's happening. So, well done, Mark Hamill, for doing that. If anybody was planning to go and see The Rise of Skywalker, thinking they was going to get a resurrection of Luke, thinking they was going to see the sort of character assassination that he received at the hands of Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy with The Last Jedi, if they was going to go to see The Rise of Skywalker thinking that Luke was going to be back in a big way and was going to right the wrongs of that last film, then no, that's not what's happening. Luke's just going to get a curtain call. He's in it for maybe 2 or 3 scenes. They might be very important scenes. They might be very pivotal scenes. But his screen time is going to be very, very short. I mean, probably not as short as it was in The Force Awakens, where it's kind of like 10 seconds. But it's going to be really short. He's not going to play much of a role in The Rise of Skywalker, based on what Mark is telling us there. And when asked whether it's going to be the end of his involvement with Star Wars, he says he certainly hopes so. So, I mean, that is somebody who has emotionally moved on from Star Wars. He's done. He's finished, you know, it couldn't be any clearer that he has had enough of the whole thing. And he's only doing, I suppose he's probably only doing this film because he's obligated to. He sort of says that he kind of like said goodbye to Star Wars and to Luke with The Last Jedi when his character was killed off. And I would think, from the way he's talking, that if he wasn't contracted, he would probably be very happy to have not been involved with The Rise of Skywalker at all, to have just left Luke as he was, sort of dead, and dead on his own and sort of gone, and that's it. So, yeah, Mark, very unhappy. Obviously, we know he's been very unhappy, but I don't think it could get any clearer, really, that that is one very unhappy actor, and he's disassociated himself from Star Wars now. He's done, he's finished. And once Rise of Skywalker is out, I assume he will have no further association with Star Wars, which is really, really sad that that's happened. Because, I mean, other than I said at some video, other than George, Mark Hamill really is Star Wars in a lot of ways. Luke Skywalker is our hero for generations, and he's just very strange, very odd, very bizarre that all the way along through this, Luke has been treated as kind of like a problem to be overcome. So I've spoke about this in previous videos, but instead of sort of embracing the character and sort of trying to decide where to take the character next and to show him as the powerful Jedi that we wanted, to see the sort of a powerful Jedi Master overseeing a rebirth of the Jedi Knights, if you like, almost as a biblical type figure, I suppose, with newly trained Jedi at Jedi Academy. I think that's what a lot of people wanted to see. Probably a return of the Jedi Temple back in all its glory on Coruscant. I think that's what many people wanted to see. Not Luke flawless. I think a lot of people would have expected Luke, an aged Luke, to have problems and challenges that he's going to overcome. But I think people wanted to see him as kind of like the Jedi Knight, kind of like the Yoda, if you like, of this of this sort of sequel trilogy. And yes, definitely you would expect his character to be killed off, but not until the end of the last film, where he's killed off in the middle of the trilogy at the end of The Last Jedi. It's just really, really bizarre and very, very odd storytelling to kill him at that point. If I was creating this, I would have had him rejoin the story in episode 7, as George Lucas had in his draft. But if that wasn't possible, I would definitely have had him rejoining the adventure properly in episode 8. And then I would have killed him off sometime late on in episode 9, or at some point for episode 9 you would have him transform into the Netherworld. But it's just very, very strange, very odd the way that they have sort of viewed all the way along Luke as a problem, and somehow overshadowing the new characters. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why Luke and Rey couldn't have coexisted together with one another. You didn't have to character assassinate and then actually assassinate the character to promote Rey. It's just a really strange, bizarre, odd, you name it, way of storytelling. And I think Mark agrees with that. I think he's very surprised at how this has gone. He wasn't expecting it to go like this at all, I don't think, when he signed up for the sequel trilogy back in 2011, 2012. And it's just really sad that our hero that we've known so well has had this sort of journey through the sequel trilogy, and the fans have had to take the journey with him. And there we go. So he's done. He's very much finished with Star Wars. It couldn't be clearer from that brief little interview. It's a very unhappy Mark Hamill. And it'll be interesting once he's out of contract, because I assume he's still under contract now, so he probably shouldn't have said that. But, Mark, what are we going to do? Fire Mark? I mean, it's at the end of the thing anyway. But he probably is still under contract until The Rise of Skywalker comes out. After that, he'll be out of contract. I think it'll be very, very interesting to see what Mark has to say when he's out of contract about how all of this has developed. It might be something that turns up in his memoirs one day, but I think at some point Mark will let rip. I mean, he's been very unhappy up to now, but I think after he's out of contract, when the sequel trilogy is finished, when he's totally finished with Star Wars, I think he will really, really let rip about not only how his character was treated, but also how he thinks George Lucas was treated, the way the fans have been treated under Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm Limited. And I think, although he's finished with Star Wars, most definitely, I don't think we have by any means heard the end of Mark Hamill and what he's got to say about what's happened with sequel trilogy, with Rian Johnson, with Kathleen Kennedy, with George Lucas. There's a lot more to come, I think, when Mark is out of contract and totally away from the sequel trilogy. But it's very, very sad, but it's got to this, that our lead actor is saying that he hopes he's finished with Star Wars. I mean, really sad, but there we go. That is the total shambles that Kathleen Kennedy, Rian Johnson, and I will say J.J. Abrams have made of the sequel trilogy. That's it. Please like, share and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think, and we'll bring you more Star Wars content on the channel very, very soon. That's all for now, though. Thanks for watching.